6 months after Petra Winston said yes to marrying New York's most dangerous Korean mafia boss, their wedding day was supposed to be perfect. Designer dress, luxury venue, two families finally coming together. But nobody expected Petra's estranged family to show up uninvited, or for her ex-boyfriend Kelvin to crash the ceremony with shocking accusations about Miho's past. When Petra's conservative father meets his future son-in-law's bullet scars and realizes what his daughter's been hiding, the wedding reception becomes a battlefield. Not of guns and violence this time, but of family secrets, cultural clashes, and a love triangle that threatens to destroy everything Miho and Petra built together. If you're new here and haven't watched part 1 of Petra and Miho's epic love story, pause this video right now and go check it out, the link is in the description. You need the backstory to understand today's drama. For everyone else who's been waiting for this wedding, hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments if you think Petra's family will accept Miho. Now let's dive into the chaos. 3 weeks before the wedding, Petra Winston stood in the most expensive bridal boutique in Manhattan, staring at herself in a mirror. The custom silk dress fit her perfectly, making her golden brown skin glow against the ivory fabric. She looked like someone who belonged in this world of luxury and excess. "You're thinking too much," Hannah said from behind her, adjusting the train. "I can see the worry all over your face." "I keep thinking about how different my life was a year ago," Petra admitted. "My mom had just died, I was drowning in debt, handing out flyers for rent money. Now I'm marrying a man who..." She trailed off. "Who runs a criminal empire but loves you more than anything in the world." Hannah finished gently. "Yeah. That. Having second thoughts?" "No. Just wondering if I'm ready for what comes next. Being married to Miho means becoming part of his world completely. Meeting his family, managing his legitimate businesses, being seen as the wife of..." Petra's phone rang, interrupting her thoughts. Unknown number. "Hello? Petra Winston." A male voice, vaguely familiar. "Who is this?" "It's Damon. Your brother." Petra's heart stopped. She hadn't spoken to her brother in over 2 years, not since their mother's funeral when they'd argued about the medical bills and who should have done more. "Damon," she breathed. "How did you get this number?" "I'm a detective, remember? Listen, Dad and I are in New York. We need to talk." "About what?" "About the fact that you're apparently getting married to someone we've never met. About the fact that you disappeared to New York and cut us off. About a lot of things." Petra felt her chest tighten. "I didn't cut you off. You both made it clear at Mom's funeral that you blamed me for not doing enough, for the debt, for..." "We were grieving and stupid," Damon interrupted. "We said things we didn't mean. But you're still family, Petra. And we're not letting you get married without meeting this guy. You can't just show up and..." "We're already here. We're at a hotel in Koreatown. Dad wants to meet your fiancé. Tomorrow. Please." The vulnerability in her brother's voice caught her off guard. "Okay," Petra said slowly. "Tomorrow. I'll set something up." After she hung up, Hannah raised an eyebrow. "Family drama? My father and brother are in town. They want to meet Miho. That's good, right? Family reconciliation. My brother Damon is an NYPD detective. He transferred here 6 months ago." Hannah's face went pale. "Does Miho know?" "He's known since the day we met. He investigates everyone in his life. This could be complicated." "Everything about my life is complicated now," Petra sighed. What she didn't know was that across the city, Miho was dealing with his own family complication. Miho stood in his office at Club Azure, staring at his phone like it was a live grenade. "You have to answer her eventually," Jay, his head of security, said carefully. "I know. She's called 15 times today." "I know. She's your mother, boss. Which is why I know exactly what this conversation will be about," Miho said, finally answering the call. "Iyama. His mother's voice came through sharp and clear, speaking rapid Korean. Miho's expression grew more strained with each sentence. Yes, I'm getting married. No, I didn't tell you because I knew you'd react exactly like this. She's not Korean, she's American. Yes, I'm aware of what grandmother would think. Iyama, please. He pulled the phone away from his ear as his mother's voice rose in volume. She's coming here, he said to Jay after finally ending the call. My mother is flying from Seoul to New York. She arrives in 3 days. To meet Petra. To assess the situation, Miho said, using air quotes. Which means to determine if Petra is worthy of the Kong family name. How much does she know about Petra? That she's black, American, and not from a powerful family. That's enough for my mother to have opinions. Miho had known this moment would come. His mother, Kang Yunji, was traditional, proud, and had very specific ideas about who her son should marry. Those ideas definitely didn't include a black American woman she'd never met. This is going to be interesting, Jay observed. That's one word for it. The next evening, Petra brought Miho to meet her father and brother at a quiet restaurant in Midtown. Robert Winston was exactly as Petra remembered, tall, dignified, with salt and pepper hair and the bearing of a career military man. He'd aged since she last saw him, new lines around his eyes that spoke of grief and regret. Damon had changed more. At 28, he was lean and sharp-eyed, with the analytical gaze of someone trained to see what others missed. He wore casual clothes, but Petra noticed the slight bulge of a shoulder holster. Dad. Damon. Petra hugged them both, feeling a complicated mix of love and residual hurt. Baby girl, Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. You look good. Happy. I am happy. Damon's attention had already shifted to Miho, assessing him with professional scrutiny. You must be Kong Miho, Robert said, extending his hand. Miho shook it firmly, respectful but not deferential. Mr. Winston. Detective Winston. Thank you for coming. Didn't feel like we had much choice, Damon said. Our sister disappears to New York, cuts off contact, and we find out she's getting married through social media. I didn't cut off contact, Petra said quietly. You both made it very clear at Mom's funeral that you blamed me for everything that went wrong. Robert flinched. We were grieving, Petra. We said things we didn't mean. You meant them enough at the time. Can we sit? Miho interjected gently. This conversation might go better with food. Once they were seated and orders placed, Robert dove straight in. Tell me about yourself, Miho. What do you do? I own several nightclubs and restaurants in Manhattan, Miho replied smoothly. Entertainment and hospitality. That's the official answer, Damon said, pulling out his phone. Want to hear what I found when I ran a background check? Petra's stomach dropped. Damon. No, let him speak, Miho said calmly. I have nothing to hide from your family. Damon read from his phone. Kong Miho, age 32. Born in Seoul, immigrated at age 8. Father was Kong Jin-ho, known associate of Korean organized crime. Died 4 years ago in what was officially ruled a robbery gone wrong but was likely a gang hit. You took over the family business at 28. He looked up. And when I say family business, I don't mean restaurants. Robert's expression had gone carefully neutral, the face of a man processing a threat. You're involved in organized crime, Robert said. It wasn't a question. Yes, Miho said simply. The honesty seemed to surprise both men. You're just going to admit it? Damon asked. Would you prefer I lie to your father? To you? Miho met Damon's gaze steadily. Yes, I run an organization that operates outside the law. I inherited it from my father, and I've worked to make it less violent, more controlled. I don't deal in drugs or human trafficking. I protect my territory and my people. You're a criminal, Damon stated flatly. By legal definition, yes. And you think you're good enough for my sister? No, Miho said, and the raw honesty in his voice made everyone pause. I'm not good enough for Petra. She's brilliant, compassionate, strong, and deserves someone without blood on his hands. But I love her more than my own life, and I will protect her and provide for her until my last breath. Robert had been quiet through this exchange, studying Miho with the analytical eye of a man who'd spent decades assessing soldiers. What's your exit strategy? He asked suddenly. My what? Your exit strategy. You can't do this forever without ending up dead or in prison. What's your plan for getting out? Miho seemed genuinely surprised by the question. I'm transitioning the organization toward legitimate businesses. The clubs and restaurants are completely legal. I'm investing in real estate, tech startups. In 5 years, maybe less, I plan to be completely clean. Plans change, Robert said. What happens when a rival decides to target Petra to get to you? I have comprehensive security measures. That's not what I asked. What happens when someone threatens my daughter because of who you are? The question hung heavy in the air. Then I eliminate the threat, Miho said quietly. Completely and permanently. By killing them, Damon said. If necessary. Petra watched her father and brother process this, saw the conflict on their faces. They wanted to hate Miho, to dismiss him as a criminal unworthy of their family. But his honesty, his clear devotion to Petra, made it complicated. I need to use the restroom, Robert said abruptly, standing. Damon, come with me. The Winston men left, and Petra immediately turned to Miho. That was brutal, she said. It was honest. They deserve honesty. What if they can't accept this? Accept us? Miho took her hand. Then we'll deal with it. Together. When her father and brother returned, Robert's expression was resolved. I don't like this, he said, sitting down. I don't like that my daughter is involved with organized crime. I don't like the danger, the secrecy, any of it. Dad, Petra started. I'm not finished. I don't like it, but I can see that you love each other. And I can see that you, he looked at Miho, would burn the world down for her. Without hesitation, Miho confirmed. Then I have one condition for giving you my blessing. You get out. Completely. I don't care if it takes 5 years or 10, but you transition everything to legitimate business and you walk away from the criminal side. I'm already working on that, Miho said. Then work faster. Because I buried my wife, and I'm not burying my daughter because she married into a war. The words hit like a physical blow. Petra felt tears prick her eyes. I will never let anything happen to her, Miho said fiercely. On my life, on my honor, I will keep her safe. Robert nodded slowly. Then you have my blessing. Conditional, but you have it. Damon was less convinced. I'm still not thrilled about this. But Petra's an adult. Just know that I'll be watching, Miho. One hint that she's in danger, one suspicion that you're using her, and cop or not, I'll come for you. I'd expect nothing less, Miho replied. The tension broke slightly, and the conversation moved to safer topics, the wedding plans, Petra's work, New York versus Atlanta. It was during dessert that Miho's phone rang. He glanced at it and his expression tightened. I need to take this, he said, stepping away from the table. Petra watched him through the window, saw his posture stiffen, saw him run a hand through his hair in frustration. When he returned, his face was carefully neutral. Everything okay? Petra asked. My mother just landed at JFK. She'll be at my penthouse in 2 hours. Your mother? Petra's heart raced. I didn't know she was coming. Neither did I until yesterday. She wants to meet you. Tonight? Tomorrow. But I need to pick her up and get her settled tonight. After saying goodbye to her father and brother, with promises to see them at the wedding, Petra and Miho headed to his penthouse. Tell me about your mother, Petra said in the car. Miho was quiet for a long moment. She's traditional. Very proud of our family name and heritage. She had specific ideas about who I should marry. Let me guess. Korean, from a powerful family, probably someone she's known since childhood. Exactly. And instead you're bringing home a black American woman she's never met. Yes. Is she going to hate me? Miho reached over and took her hand. She's going to test you. Question you. Try to find your weaknesses. But if you stand your ground and show her the strength I know you have, she'll respect you. Respect isn't the same as acceptance. With my mother, it's the first step. Kang Yoonji was a force of nature wrapped in elegant traditional Korean clothing. She was in her late 50s, with perfectly styled black hair touched with gray, sharp intelligent eyes, and the bearing of someone used to being obeyed. When Petra arrived at Miho's penthouse the next morning, Yoonji was already holding court in the living room, Hannah sitting nervously nearby. "Iyama," Miho said, bowing respectfully. "This is Petra Winston." "Petra, this is my mother, Kang Yoonji." Yoonji's eyes swept over Petra from head to toe, assessing everything, her clothes, her posture, her confidence. "So you are the woman who has captured my son's attention," Yoonji said in perfect but accented English. "Yes, ma'am," Petra replied, bowing slightly. "It's an honor to meet you. Sit." It was a command, not a request. Petra sat on the couch, acutely aware of Yoonji's scrutiny. "Tell me about yourself," Yoonji said. "Your family, your education, your background." Petra took a breath. "I grew up in Atlanta. My mother passed away a year ago from cancer. My father was military, now retired. I attended Emory University studying social work, but I left to care for my mother when she got sick." "You dropped out of university?" "Yes, to be with my mother during her final months." Yoonji's expression didn't change. "And your work now?" "I manage marketing and social media for Miho's legitimate businesses. I've increased revenue by 40% in 6 months. Miho tells me you met while you were handing out advertising papers on the street." There it was, the judgment beneath the polite words. "Yes," Petra said, lifting her chin. "I was working multiple jobs to pay off my mother's medical debt. I'm not ashamed of honest work. But it is not the background one expects for the wife of Kang Miho." "Iyama," Miho said, a warning in his voice. "I am simply stating facts," Yoonji replied in Korean, then switched back to English. "My son could marry anyone. The daughter of a Seoul CEO, a woman from a powerful family, someone who understands our world and our culture. Instead, he chooses you." "Yes," Petra said calmly, though her heart was racing. "He does. Why do you think that is?" "Because I love him for who he is, not what he can give me. Because I see past the power and the danger to the good man underneath. And because I make him happy." Yoonji studied her for a long moment. "You speak very confidently for someone with no family connections, no wealth, no understanding of Korean culture." "I speak confidently because I know my worth," Petra replied. "And because your son knows it too." A flicker of something, surprise. Respect, crossed Yoonji's face. "Hannah," Yoonji said, switching to Korean. "Leave us." "You too, Miho." "Iyama, I don't think," Miho started. "Leave. I wish to speak with this woman alone." After Miho and Hannah reluctantly left, Yoonji poured 2 cups of tea with precise movements. "Do you know what my husband did?" she asked, handing Petra a cup. Miho said he ran the organization before him. Kang Jinho was a violent man. Brilliant, powerful, but violent. He built an empire through blood and fear. I knew what he was when I married him, and I made my peace with it. But I always hoped my son would choose a different path. Miho is different from his father, Petra said carefully. Yes. Because of you, I think. Yoonji sipped her tea. Since you came into his life, I hear different reports from my sources. He is less ruthless, more strategic. He speaks of leaving the criminal life entirely. This is your influence. I want him to be safe. To have a future that doesn't end in violence. That is what a good wife wants. But tell me, can you handle the reality of who he is now? The danger, the secrets, the things he has done and may still have to do. Petra met Yoonji's gaze steadily. I won't lie and say it doesn't scare me. But I love him enough to face it. And I'm stronger than I look. You will need to be. Because the people who wish my son harm will come for you to hurt him. Can you accept living with that fear? I already do. Yoonji nodded slowly. You are not what I wanted for Miho. But perhaps you are what he needs. Still, I must know, do you truly love my son? Or do you love the security and wealth he provides? I loved him when I had nothing, Petra said firmly. When I was broke and struggling and he was just a man who saw me as more than my circumstances. The security and wealth are nice, but they're not why I'm marrying him. Then I will tell you a secret about Kong men, Yoonji said, leaning forward. They are loyal to the death, but they are also proud and can be cold. My husband shut me out of parts of his life, made decisions without me, treated me like I needed protection rather than partnership. Do not let Miho do the same. Demand your place beside him, not behind him. I will. Good. Yoonji stood. Now, we will plan proper wedding elements. You are marrying into a Korean family, and there must be traditional components. Can you accept that? Yes, ma'am. And you will call me Iamoni, not ma'am. We are family now, even if this is not the family I imagined. It wasn't exactly warm acceptance, but it was a start. Okay, can we talk about how intense Miho's mother is? Drop a comment telling me if you think she'll eventually accept Petra or if this is going to be ongoing drama. And we still haven't gotten to the ex-boyfriend situation or the actual wedding. Hit that like button if you're loving this family dynamic, and let's keep going. The rehearsal dinner was held at Miho's most upscale restaurant, with both families in attendance for the first time. On one side, Robert and Damon Winston, looking slightly uncomfortable but present. On the other, Kang Yoonji, sitting like a queen, with Hannah beside her and several Korean relatives who'd flown in for the wedding. Petra sat between the two worlds, trying to bridge cultures and families that seemed to have nothing in common except her. Miho had given a beautiful speech about family and gratitude. Hannah had welcomed the Winstons warmly. Even Yoonji had been polite, if reserved. Everything was going surprisingly well. Until Kelvin Williams walked through the door. Petra's ex-boyfriend looked exactly the same, tall, handsome, with the kind of confidence that bordered on arrogance. He wore an expensive suit and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sorry I'm late, he announced to the room. I hope I didn't miss anything important. The entire restaurant went silent. Miho stood slowly, his expression going ice cold. You weren't invited. Really? Because I got a very interesting email saying I should be here. Something about the bride and groom deserving to know the truth before they make a huge mistake. Kelvin, leave, Petra said, standing as well. Now. Not until I say what I came to say. Kelvin walked further into the room, clearly enjoying the attention. See, I've been doing some research on your fiancé, Petra. Very interesting stuff. Whatever you think you know, Miho started. I know you killed 3 men in a warehouse in Queens 6 months ago, Kelvin interrupted. I know you orchestrated a gang war that left 12 people dead. I know you run protection rackets, illegal gambling, and money laundering operations across Manhattan. Gasps rippled through the room. The Korean relatives who didn't know the full extent of Miho's business looked shocked. Robert's face had gone hard. Even Yoonji looked displeased. And most interesting, Kelvin continued, his eyes on Petra. I know that 6 months ago, Petra was kidnapped by a rival gang specifically because of you. She was tied up in a warehouse, terrorized, nearly killed, all because she had the poor judgment to get involved with you. Petra felt the room spinning. She'd never told her father or brother about the kidnapping. Is this true? Robert demanded, looking at Miho. The kidnapping happened, Miho said tightly. And I got her back safely. You got her back. Damon stood up, his voice rising. She was kidnapped because of you in the first place. It was handled. My sister was nearly killed and you call it handled? The room erupted into chaos. Robert was demanding explanations. The Korean relatives were whispering among themselves. Yoonji was berating Miho in rapid Korean. Hannah was trying to calm everyone down. And Kelvin stood in the center of it all, looking satisfied. Petra had had enough. Everyone stop, she shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. The room fell silent. Kelvin, I don't know what game you're playing, but you need to leave. Now. I'm trying to save you from making the biggest mistake of your life. By crashing my rehearsal dinner and airing private information. That's not concern, that's revenge because I left you. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need your protection. Petra's voice shook with fury. I left you because you were controlling and possessive. Because you treated me like property instead of a partner. Because you made me feel small and afraid. I never. You monitored my phone. You showed up at my jobs unannounced. You told me what to wear and who I could be friends with. That's not love, Kelvin. That's abuse. Kelvin's charming facade cracked. Everything I did was because I cared about you. No. Everything you did was about controlling me. And the fact that you're here now, trying to ruin my wedding, proves you haven't changed. She turned to Miho, who was watching her with a mixture of pride and love. Yes, I was kidnapped. Yes, it was because of Miho's enemies. And yes, it was terrifying. But you know what? Miho tore the city apart to find me. He risked everything to get me back safely. And after, he gave me the choice to walk away, no pressure, no guilt, just the option to leave if I wanted to. She looked at her father and brother. I chose to stay. Not because I'm naive or blinded by money or security. But because Miho treats me like an equal. He values my opinions, supports my dreams, and never tries to control who I am. Yes, his world is dangerous. But he's honest about it, and he's working to change it. Turning back to Kelvin, she said coldly, you need to leave. If you ever contact me again, I'll get a restraining order. You're making a mistake, Kelvin said, but his voice had lost its certainty. The only mistake I made was wasting 6 months on you. Damon, who'd been watching this entire exchange, stepped forward. She told you to leave. I suggest you do it before I arrest you for trespassing. Kelvin looked around the room, finally realizing he'd lost. With a final glare at Miho, he left. The silence that followed was heavy. I think, Yoonji said carefully in English, we should all sit down and have an honest conversation. For the next 2 hours, Miho laid out everything, the kidnapping, the rescue, his plans to leave criminal life, the timeline for going completely legitimate. Petra shared her side, explaining why she'd kept the kidnapping secret, how she'd made peace with the dangers of Miho's world. Robert was hardest to convince. You let my daughter stay in danger. I gave her the choice, Miho corrected. And I've increased security measures exponentially. She has a protection detail whenever she leaves the penthouse. We have safe houses, emergency protocols, everything I can think of to keep her safe. But you can't guarantee her safety. No, Miho admitted. I can't. But I can promise I will die before I let anyone hurt her. Damon had been quiet through most of this, processing. Finally, he spoke. I ran a deeper background check after our dinner. What I found was interesting. Yes, you're involved in organized crime. But in your territory, violent crime is down 40%. Domestic violence calls have dropped. Local businesses are thriving. You're not a typical gang leader. I try to protect my community, not exploit it, Miho said. And the transition to legitimate business, that's real? Completely. I have a timeline. In 3 years, everything I touch will be legal. Make it 2 years, Robert said firmly. If you're going to be my son-in-law, I want you out of the criminal life as fast as possible. I'll make it 2 years, Miho agreed. Yoonji had been watching this exchange with sharp eyes. This woman, she said, gesturing to Petra, she is stronger than I gave her credit for. To stand up to her ex-boyfriend like that, to choose this difficult path with open eyes, that takes courage. She stood and approached Petra, then did something unexpected. She pulled Petra into a brief embrace. You will be good for my son, Yoonji said quietly. Make him be good for you in return. I will, Iamoni, Petra whispered. The rest of the evening was spent in more comfortable conversation, sharing stories, learning about each other's cultures, slowly building bridges between the two families. By the end of the night, it wasn't perfect harmony. But it was a start. The day of the wedding arrived with beautiful weather and careful security. Petra stood in her bridal suite at the plaza, surrounded by Hannah and a few close friends, putting the finishing touches on her appearance. Nervous? Hannah asked, adjusting Petra's veil. Terrified, Petra admitted. Not about marrying Miho. Just about everything that could go wrong. Nothing will go wrong. We have more security than a presidential inauguration. A knock on the door revealed Robert, looking handsome in his suit. Dad, Petra said, feeling tears prick her eyes. Baby girl, you look beautiful. Just like your mother did on our wedding day. The mention of her mother, gone just over a year, made Petra's tears fall for real. I wish she was here, she whispered. She is, Robert said, pulling her close. She's here in your strength, your compassion, your determination. She'd be so proud of the woman you've become. Even though I'm marrying a criminal. Even though. Because you're making your own choices with your eyes wide open. That's all a parent can ask. They walked down to the ceremony together, and when the doors opened, Petra saw the beautiful ballroom filled with people from both her worlds, Korean relatives, American friends, Miho's business associates, her father's military buddies. But most importantly, she saw Miho. He stood at the altar looking devastating in a custom black suit, his eyes locked on her with such love and wonder that everything else faded away. Robert walked her down the aisle, placed her hand in Miho's, then whispered something in Korean that made Miho's eyes widen and nod solemnly. The ceremony was a beautiful blend of traditions, Korean and American elements woven together. Yoonji had insisted on including the traditional Korean paebik ceremony, where the couple bowed to their elders and received blessings. When it came time for vows, Miho spoke first, his voice steady but emotional. Petra, before you, I was half alive. Going through motions, building an empire but feeling empty. You brought light into my darkness. You made me want to be better, to build something good instead of just powerful. I promise to protect you, honor you, and love you for the rest of my life. I promise to leave the darkness behind and build a future worthy of you. And I promise that every day, I will work to deserve the gift of your love. Petra's voice shook as she spoke her vows. Miho, you saw me when I was invisible. You valued me when I felt worthless. You gave me not just security and comfort, but partnership and respect. I promise to stand beside you through every challenge. I promise to be your light when the past feels heavy. And I promise to love you, not despite who you are, but because of it. Every complicated, beautiful part of you. They exchanged rings, platinum bands engraved with each other's names in both English and Korean. By the power vested in me, the officiant said, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss your bride. Miho cupped Petra's face and kissed her with such tenderness and passion that the room erupted in applause and cheers. They were married. The reception that followed was joyful chaos, traditional Korean music mixing with American R&B, fusion cuisine blending both cultures, guests from completely different worlds finding common ground in celebration. Petra danced with Miho, with her father, with Damon. She watched Yoonji slowly warm to Robert as they discussed their children. She saw Hannah laughing with some of her American friends. Late in the evening, Miho pulled her onto a balcony for a quiet moment alone. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Kong?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Like the luckiest woman alive," Petra replied. "Both our families here, celebrating together. No disasters, no drama. Well, minimal drama. I can't believe Kelvin actually showed up to the rehearsal dinner. I can't believe you handled him so perfectly. Watching you stand up to him, defend our relationship, I've never been more proud or more in love." Petra kissed him softly. "I have something for you." She pulled out an envelope and handed it to him. Inside were documents, business licenses, incorporation papers, transfer agreements. "What is this?" Miho asked, scanning the pages. "While you were transitioning your legitimate businesses, I was starting something of my own," Petra explained. "A non-profit organization focused on helping young people in difficult situations. Job training, education support, mentorship. Using some of the profits from the clubs and restaurants to give back to the community." "Petra. I know your world has been about taking and controlling territory. I want our future to be about giving and building community. This is just the start." Miho's eyes were suspiciously bright as he pulled her close. "Have I mentioned that you're extraordinary? Once or twice? I have something for you too." He pulled out his own envelope. "Legal papers finalizing my exit from the organization. I've turned over control to trusted associates and I'm officially out. Everything I touch from this moment forward is completely legitimate." "Miho, you didn't have to." "Yes, I did. For you. For us. For the family we might have someday. My father's legacy was blood and violence. Mine will be building something good with the woman I love." Petra threw her arms around him, kissing him with all the love and hope and gratitude in her heart. "I love you so much," she whispered. "I love you too. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret choosing me." From inside the ballroom, they could hear music and laughter, their families, their friends, all the people who mattered celebrating together despite the odds. It wasn't a fairy tale. There would still be challenges ahead, adjusting to married life, dealing with lingering dangers from Miho's past, bridging cultural differences, building their new legitimate empire. But they would face it all together. As equals. As partners. As family. And that was everything. And that's the end of Petra and Miho's wedding story. Drop a comment and let me know if you love this family drama and romance. Smash that like button and subscribe for more incredible love stories. Check out our channel link in the description for more Mafia romance and forbidden love stories. And seriously, thank you so much for all your support on this series. Your comments and enthusiasm made creating part 2 so much fun. What other stories do you want to see on the channel? Let me know below. Until next time, remember, love is worth fighting for, even when it's complicated. Peace out.